Hey there, all you beautiful souls. I hope your day has been absolutely fantastic. Welcome back to the first installment of What If Naruto Was the Descendant of Scorpion. Don't forget to pay a visit to the author of this captivating fanfiction, and show them some love. You'll find the link waiting for you down in the description. Uzumaki Naruto sacrificed his life to protect a precious person, but instead of going to the afterlife, Naruto finds himself face to face with the remains of a soul that was locked away deep within his own soul. The soul filled with fury and vengeance of a family and clan that was taken from him. How will this chance meeting change Naruto, and will it be for better? If this what if is sparking your curiosity, drop a comment down below and share your thoughts. And while you're at it, don't miss out on exploring the plethora of other intriguing what ifs available on this very channel. Alright, let's not keep you waiting any longer, let's dive right into this thought-provoking video. Village of Wave. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. Excuse me, sir, you are resting on the herbs I need. Ocean blue eyes open drowsily at the sound of the voice coming from above him, and once they focus, the sight of a pale girl, no older than himself, was staring down at him. Uzumaki Naruto had just spent the entire night trying to walk up the bloody tree he was currently leaned upon, and while he succeeded, he was plumb tired from it. Naruto's face heated up from how pretty the girl was. Her chocolate brown eyes seemed to shine with warmth unfamiliar to him, and add to the fact her onyx black hair was cascading around her shoulders, the bright green leaves from the trees behind her, and the beams of sunlight coming through set leaves. He thought he had died and gone to heaven. Wow, you're very beautiful, Naruto stammered out, the blush on his face darkening significantly. The girl's face tinged pink from the compliment. Thank you, Shinobi-san, she murmured, tripping up on her words, clearly taken by surprise by the compliment, but then she smiled. Naruto laughed nervously and raised up from his resting spot and stretched out his limbs. So, what are you doing out here all by yourself? Naruto asked after he lowered his arms. The mysterious woman explained that she was getting herbs for her wounded father. Well then, how about I help you out? No sense in leaving someone as beautiful as you to handle this alone, Naruto stated with a kind smile on his face, which caused the girl to return his smile shyly, pink returning to her cheeks. What is your name? Naruto pointed at his own chest with his thumb, and said with a proud tone, I am Uzumaki Naruto. Konoha Shinobi and the most unpredictable being on this planet. And what is your name? The female merely smiled up at him and said Haku. Haku is my name, and I'm just a simple flower girl from Wave. Village of Wave, time skip, 1 day later. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. Why did you become a shinobi, Naruto-san? Naruto glanced at Haku's curious face. The two of them were currently sitting on the edge of a dock when Haku decided to ask this question out of the blue. Naruto opened his mouth to give her the standard answer he gives anyone that asks that question. So, I could become the Hokage. That way, everyone would have to acknowledge me. But Naruto closed his mouth and stared out at the ocean before him. At first, that was his reason. He wanted to become a shinobi and then the Hokage, because he was tired of being ignored and being treated as some freak. He knew the reason why everyone treated him this way now, but that didn't mean anything to him. He wanted to prove that he was not the Kyuubi no Kitsune to Konoha, and that is why he was a shinobi. But now things were different. He still wanted to be acknowledged by his village, but now that was no longer the driving point of his shinobi career. But what was his reason if not that? I honestly don't know anymore, Naruto replied with a small sigh leaving his lips. At first, I just wanted to be seen as me, instead of the outcast of my village, but lately, I just feel lost. He saw Haku frown from the corner of his eye, and silently, he felt her soft hands touch his face, before they turned his head to face her. Naruto-san, don't you have someone precious to you? Someone that you would be willing to fight and to die for? Haku asked softly. Naruto narrowed his eyes in thought before he replied, well, not really, I'm the outcast in my village. Everyone hates me for something I couldn't control. I don't really have anyone to fight for, let alone die for. He could tell that Haku was not pleased with his words, but he was being honest with her. Sure, he had some friends, but they weren't really there for him when he needed them. And one could say Iruka or Konohamaru, but Iruka could always defend himself, and Konohamaru was the Hokage's grandson. They didn't need anyone fighting or dying for them. Naruto-san, maybe that is why you feel lost. You feel as if you don't have a purpose, Haku stated to him gently. Naruto nodded at this, finding truth in her words, but then he asked, then can you help me find my purpose? Haku seemed stunned by this question, but he then watched a tender smile form on her face. I'll be glad to assist. Village of Wave, time skip, 4 days later. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was walking around Tazuna's village with a large grin on his face. It had been 4 days since he met Haku and so far, he had found himself really liking her. The two would meet up every day in the forest to collect herbs for her father, and just talk for hours on end, until his sensei and teammates came wandering out to start their training. He found himself telling her of all of his friends and fun times he had in Konoha, and each time he managed to get a laugh from her made his heart skip a beat. But while everything was going well for the two of them, Naruto still hadn't found that purpose Haku said he was missing. I wouldn't give up hope though. I'll find my purpose sooner or later, Naruto said to himself with a grateful smile on his face. But that's when he happened to come across Haku handing out soup to some of the starving children in the village. Naruto watched her for a few seconds, clearly touched by the sight, and decided then and there to do something special. That's when Naruto noticed a large amount of many kinds of flowers growing in front of a long abandoned home, and quickly went to work in pulling them out of the ground, cutting the roots off with his kunai. He hid the modest-sized impromptu bouquet behind his back and walked up behind Haku and said hey. He watched as Haku jumped and instantly turned around a lot quicker than a regular girl should, but then when she saw him, Haku huffed and exclaimed ah. Naruto-san. You scared me. Naruto smiled while Haku glared at him with a small pout. Sorry, Haku-san. I couldn't help it. I don't get to scare people often, Naruto replied with a large grin on his face and a chuckle. He saw that Haku was about to speak, so without warning, he pulled the bouquet from his back and said, for you. He saw Haku's eyes widen in shock at the flowers, while all the children around them began to giggle and whisper amongst themselves about this turn of events. Wow, Naruto-san, what is this for? Haku asked him softly, her face red. Well, I saw you feeding these kids, and I decided you deserve something nice for doing it, Naruto replied with an earnest smile on his face. Haku gingerly took the flowers from his hands and held them in her arms, clearly unable to reply briefly before she said, thank you Naruto-san. I didn't do this just to get a reward, I did this to be able to help these starving people, it was the right thing to do. I knew that Haku-san, but still, I wanted to give you something to show my appreciation for you doing this, Naruto replied before he muttered, I just wish someone had done this type of thing to me sooner. He knew Haku had heard his mutter due to the sadness that appeared in her eyes, but before she could commit, Naruto masked his own sadness with a large smile and said, move over, I'm going to help. No sense in leaving a pretty woman to do this all alone. Naruto realized right then and there that making Haku blush was going to be so much fun. Village of Wave, time skip, 1 week later. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. It's nice of you to walk with me on this night, Naruto-san, Haku told him with a small smile on her face, her hands clasped behind her back, while Naruto's hands were comfortable in his orange jumper's pockets. Naruto snorted at her words and responded, when a beautiful girl asks if you want to walk with them, you say yes in an instant. That's what my friend Kiba always told me. He heard Haku giggle beside him, and he couldn't help but blush at the sweet-sounding music she had just made. If you continue to flatter me Naruto-san, I might start to believe it. Naruto instantly turned his head in alarm. She didn't find herself beautiful. You must be kidding Haku-san. You are very beautiful. Who would lie about something like that? Naruto asked, his tone showing no amusement in her words. Naruto watched as Haku's pace slowed to a stop as she lowered her head and said, you'd be surprised. Naruto didn't know what compelled him to do what he did, but before he could stop himself, his hand gently caressed her cheek before he tilted her head up, forcing her to look into his eyes. I am surprised because they must be blind as bats. I mean, look at you. Silky, long black hair, pale skin, huge warm brown eyes, and not to mention how nice you are. You are very beautiful, Naruto told her genuinely. You continue to flatter, Haku muttered, but Naruto wouldn't let her finish. I'm not trying to flatter you Haku-san. I only speak the truth. I mean seriously. You're not only beautiful on the outside, you're beautiful on the inside as well. Ever since I met you, you have been doing nice things. Getting herbs for your father, feeding the kids of the village every single day, and not to mention keeping the children's spirits up when stuff is going bad. You are amazing. I don't feel amazing. I've done a lot of terrible things for my precious person. I just want to do something good for once, Haku stammered softly, making Naruto frown a bit. What did Haku do that was so bad? Naruto shook his head. It didn't matter to him what she had done in the past. She was trying to make up for it now, and that was all that mattered. It doesn't matter. You did some bad stuff in the past. I don't know how bad it was, but you being here and doing good is all that matters, Naruto said with a gentle smile on his face. Naruto could see how grateful she was for his words in her eyes, which were now shining with unshed tears of happiness. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Haku whispered before she leaned up and kissed his cheek, making the blonde blush wildly, but he could not wipe the smile from his face. It's no problem Haku-chan. Now come on, I can't wait for you to meet my team, Naruto murmured softly before he and Haku started to walk back toward Izuna's house. But this time, Haku's hand slowly grasped his own, causing him to look at her with a large grin on his face, which she returned with a shy smile. But as he looked at her, he felt something in his heart shift to unknown territories. But what did this mean? Village of Wave, time skip, 2 weeks later. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. And that's the last bowl of soup for today, Naruto said with a kind smile on his face, as he handed over the final bowl to a small little girl in torn clothes. The little girl took the bowl and gave Naruto a small hug around his waist and said, "Thank you Whisker-kun." Naruto smiled and patted her head gently. "It's no problem at all. Gotta keep my favorite gal well fed. The little girl's face lit up like a Christmas tree when he uttered those words, and with another hard hug, the little girl ran away, leaving Naruto and Haku alone. "You're too sweet, Naruto-kun," he heard Haku say from behind him. Naruto turned around and faced the smiling Haku and smiled at her words. "Aw shucks, I just wanted to bring some light to her day." "I'm glad it made her happy," Naruto replied while leaning on the wooden stand that Haku had created. He noticed a wide smile overcome Haku's, and it made a gentle smile appear on his face. "It seems it has made you happy as well," Naruto noted. "It does, these children have seen so much pain and suffering. To be able to brighten their day as you did makes me uncontrollably happy," Haku replied as she sat down and leaned on the other side of the wooden stand. Naruto remained silent for a few moments, his eyes gazing at the unfinished bridge that was nothing but a silhouette against the setting sun. She was right. These children had seen nothing short but pain and suffering, when they were only supposed to know happiness and fun, and it wasn't just the children. Everyone in this village deserved to be happy, but instead, the ruthless tyrant had snuffed out their hope, their dreams, and for what? Money. Power. It didn't matter what the reason was. "Haku-chan," Naruto said suddenly, catching the attention of the girl across from him. "I realize what my purpose is, why I want to stay shinobi." From the serious look in Haku's eyes, he could tell that he got her attention, and that alone gave him the strength to continue. This village has been suffering because of Gato and his army, having to bend to his rules and live under fear. And for those who refuse, like Kazuma, were killed to set an example. Naruto turned away from her to gaze at the unfinished bridge, and said with a soft tone, despite him being a shifty old drunk, Tazuna was the only one brave enough to want to see this village shine with hope and love again. He, and all of those who are building that bridge, are fighting against Gato to bring light back to this place, despite the dangers. The purpose I had before was selfish and only benefited me, but now, I want to be that light. Naruto then turned back to Haku, who had a mixture of happiness and sadness on her face, and said, "I want to be the light that ends the suffering, not only for this village or even my own, but for the world. I want to be the light that shines even through the darkest of nights. That is my purpose." "That is a wonderful purpose, Naruto-kun. I'm proud that you took up such a noble purpose," Haku said to him softly. Naruto blushed at her words and gingerly took her hands into his and said, "But I can't do it alone. I want you to help me bring that light as well." Naruto knew Haku was surprised by his words, but instead of a look of happiness, Haku lowered her head and whispered, "I don't think I could be the light you want me to be." Naruto saw a small tear escape her eyes and trail down her cheek, and slowly, he brought up his left hand to wipe it away with a small frown on his face. "Anyone can do good in the world, Haku-chan. It doesn't matter what happened in the past," Naruto told her gently. He watched as Haku looked up at him with a mixture of fear and hope in her eyes as she asked, "Do you really think so? Do you really think I could be redeemed for all the pain I've caused?" "I do," Naruto replied instantly, brushing away another tear that strayed from her eye. Haku gave him a breathtaking smile that made his heart skip a beat, and that was when he realized the answer to another question Haku had asked. "Naruto-san, don't you have someone precious to you? Someone that you would be willing to fight and to die for?" "I think I do, Haku-chan, and it's you," Naruto thought to himself before he took the plunge and pecked her lips softly. He felt her body seize up with shock the moment his lips connected with hers, but before he gave her the chance to do anything, he pulled away with reddened cheeks. Neither of them said a word for what seemed like a lifetime before he noticed that a soft smile began to form on her face, and just as he did before, she leaned up and kissed his lips, returning his affections. Village of Wave, time skip, 1 week later. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. "Haku-chan, I wouldn't be able to help with the food stand tomorrow," Naruto whispered sullenly as he stared up at the crisp clear night sky, a frown on his face. Haku, who had her head resting on his shoulder and her hand in his, remained silent. Despite only knowing her for 2 weeks and some change, he was able to read her like an open book, and he could tell she was really upset about something. She had been like this since the moment she showed up, and no matter what Naruto said or did, she wouldn't open up to him at all. So instead of waiting for her to respond, Naruto whispered, I should be glad you know. When that scroll was delivered, my team was excited because all of this would be over, and we would finally be able to go home, and yet, I'm not happy at all." Naruto sighed as he felt Haku's grip on his hand tighten, but that didn't stop his words. "You have no idea how happy I have been here. Sure, I miss Konoha, but here, I didn't feel like I wasn't wanted. Everyone, from the adults that joked around with me while my clones and I worked on the bridge, to the little kids that we fed, to you, all of you guys have been amazing to me. But once we defeat Zabuza and his partner, I'll have to leave here, leave you." It was then that Naruto felt Haku move away from him in order to stand on her 2 feet, still completely silent. For a moment, he thought he had said something wrong. That he was going to scare her away, but when he saw her shoulders shaking and heard a sob leave her lips, he knew he had said the wrong thing. But as he stood up after her, Haku said, I don't want you to go tomorrow." Naruto felt his heart clench up at how upset she sounded, but Naruto knew that this conversation would only get worse, so he had to power through it. I can't let my teammates down, they need me there, Naruto responded, his hand reaching out to Haku's shoulder, but the next word she said stopped him cold in his tracks. You don't understand, I don't want to fight you. Haku, what do you mean by that? Naruto questioned, clearly not understanding what she was trying to say. Fight him? Why does she not want to fight him? Tomorrow, he would be fighting Zabuza and his partner. What did she have to do with it? No, Naruto whispered, her words finally hitting him. Please, don't tell me, Naruto gasped out, his heart aching in both sorrow and terror, as he stared at Haku's back. I have done a lot of bad things for my precious person, Haku started, without turning back to look at the genin. Zabuza-sama took me in when my real father killed my mother, and tried to kill me because of my Kekkei Jinkai. He gave me purpose, and all I ever wanted was to be his tool. I wanted to fight for his ideals and his dreams, to die if he ever needed it of me, Haku told him with a shaky voice, trying to keep the sobs at bay. Naruto couldn't believe this. Haku, the very same Haku he had been kissing and cuddling and helping feed the children day in and day out, was Zabuza's accomplice. The very same accomplice that he would be fighting tomorrow. Why didn't you tell me? Naruto asked her, a look of hurt on his face. Haku turned around to reveal the tears pouring down her face, causing Naruto's face to morph into a frown. I couldn't, no matter how many times I wanted to tell you, I couldn't. I was scared of hurting you. Haku fell to her knees and sobbed into her hands. I didn't want any of this. I didn't ask for my heart to be taken by my master's enemy, and yet here I am. Kneeling before my enemy, my heart solely in his hands. I've never been terrified like this before. I want to obey Zabuza-sama, but I'm scared that I might have to kill you. Without stopping himself, Naruto's arms found themselves wrapping around Haku's slim form as she began to break down against him, his wet face burying itself against his neck, and her arms wrapped around him as well. Please, she uttered against his neck. Don't go to the bridge, I don't want you to die. I've already lost so much, I can't lose you as well. But Naruto knew that despite her pleas, he couldn't abandon his team. Taking a breath, Naruto said, I don't want to fight you either, and I don't want you to die, but I can't allow myself to turn my back on my team. In the same way, I'm sure you can't turn your back on Zabuza. He saved you from possible death, that outweighs how you feel about me. Haku pulled away from him just enough that she was looking at him in his eyes and said, that's not true. Naruto-kun, I love you. I hate myself for feeling this way, but I do. You have made the past 2 weeks colorful compared to how dull my life had been before. Zabuza gave me a purpose, but you gave me love I thought I would never have. Naruto laughed sadly and replied, and my luck couldn't have been better. I finally find that person I would risk it all for before I have to fight her. I don't know what to do anymore, Haku-chan. I can't abandon my team, but I can't fight you. I can't fight the person I love. It seems fate wants this to happen, Naruto told her with a broken look on his face. Then, if this is our fate, then I want us to be together, to be one, at least this one time, and not a second later. Naruto found her lips claiming his in a hard, desperate kiss. Naruto was blown away by his first kiss. Sasuke will never count, but he returned the kiss to match her desperation. Naruto then found himself falling to the ground with Haku on top of them, and then everything became a blur filled with the sounds of breathy moans, intense emotions, and feelings that neither of them thought they could ever have. And by the end of this rush of wild emotions, the naked forms of Naruto and Haku rested side by side, their arms wrapped around each other, and her head resting against his chest. Whatever happens tomorrow, I will always love you, Naruto-kun, Haku breathed out softly, her fingers intertwined with his own. And I will always love you, Haku-chan, Naruto whispered. And no matter what happens tomorrow, the both of us will walk away alive, and together, Naruto thought to himself as held her close to his body, a look of determination on his face. Village of Wave, time skip, 5 hours later. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. The battle at the bridge had been an intense one from the get-go. Sasuke and Haku fought one-on-one, while Kakashi and Zabuza did the same, leaving Sakura to guard the fearful Tazuna. Sasuke had awakened his ninjutsu, the Sharingan, and actually had an edge against Haku, until she used her Kekkei Jinkai to form the demon ice mirrors around him. It was then Naruto leaped into the fray. The intense battle between Sasuke and Haku had suddenly become more somber and heartbreaking as Haku said, "You have arrived, Naruto-kun. I was a little late, but I couldn't let the team here fight you, Haku-chan," Naruto responded softly, ignoring the look of shock on Sasuke's face when he said her name. "Though, this is Haku. The same Haku that has eaten with us dozens of times?" Sasuke asked in horror, his hands shaking in terror. "The very same team, but you no longer need to fight her. I will take over from here," Naruto replied, his gaze leaving Haku's to glance at his teammate. "I don't even want to know how this came to be, but I can't leave you here on your own dope," Sasuke said as he tugged a senbon out of his arm before he added, "She's too tough for even me to deal with alone, let alone you." "Sasuke please," Naruto asked again, his voice tinged in desperation. Sasuke seemed to get the hint, plus Naruto actually said his name for once, telling him how serious this was, and made his way out of the mirrors, and to his surprise, Haku actually let him out of her jutsu. Naruto turned to the image of Haku that was in the mirror near the top of the dome and said, "Don't hold back, because I won't." Haku nodded and pulled out 3 senbon, and with that, the battle was on. For 10 agonizing minutes, Naruto had to withstand that storm of senbon that kept coming his way, and no matter how many clones he threw at her, she was just too fast for him, but he didn't give up. Because he had a plan. Outside of the dome, 10 of his clones stood to watch over Zabuza and Kakashi's battle, and from what Iruka had told him about his clones, is that any time one was killed, any information they saw would return to him. So now it was time to use this to his advantage. He was going to have the clones kill one another whenever something big happened during the Kakashi and Zabuza fight, while drawing out his fight as well, so as Zabuza was killed and she was still fighting him, Haku would have no reason to fight him, and they could walk out together. He knew that what he was doing was underhanded, but this was the only way he could keep them both alive. But after 10 minutes of this, Naruto fell to his knees, dozens of senbons sticking out of his body, his own blood flowing from the needles and onto the bridge beneath him. "Please Naruto-kun, don't stand up," he heard Haku plead as his breathing came out hoarse and weak. Slowly, Naruto forced himself onto his feet and panted heavily. "I'm not done yet," Naruto growled out weakly, his entire body shaking from the pain he was in, but he would not allow himself to give in yet. "Keep going," Naruto commanded, his vision blurring briefly before straightening out to reveal Haku charging towards him, 3 senbon clenched in her fists. Naruto leaped forward, summoned a clone, which pushed him away, and took the senbons in the chest, leaving the real Naruto free to punch Haku in the jaw as hard as humanly possible, causing her mask to crack. Naruto and Haku both slammed to the ground, neither of them willing to move. One out of the pain of many needles in his body, and the other being unable to continue this fight further. Naruto forced himself up to his knees and started to tug the various senbon out of his body, while Haku continued to lie on the bridge, not bothering to move. Naruto turned to Haku and pushed himself up to his feet, but stumbled back to the ground hard. "Well, this isn't looking too good," Naruto groaned out as he pushed himself off the bridge. His legs were a bit numb, but Naruto would force himself through it. Suddenly, an image of 2 dogs holding Zabuza by the arms while Kakashi prepared some type of jutsu appeared in his head, and it made Naruto grin slightly. He just had to stall just a little bit longer. Naruto got back on his feet and took 3 stumbling steps forward to Haku, before he fell down to one knee, but he was close enough to hear sobbing coming from behind her mask. "Haku-chan," Naruto said while he reached out to her and removed her mask, revealing her tear-streaked face. "I couldn't do it," Haku said immediately, not caring if her mask was removed from her face. "Zabuza-sama told me to kill you, but I couldn't kill you at all. I failed him, but I am happy that I failed him, and that makes it so much worse." Haku then turned to Naruto and asked, "If I can't even obey my master's orders, how could I ever help you in your cause to bring light to this world?" Naruto could see how torn up she was about her love for him, and her loyalty to her master. She looked so lost and scared that it made his heart hurt. The sounds of chirping birds were heard echoing from the mist that was cast over the bridge, and an image of Kakashi holding what looked like a damn ball of lightning in his right hand appeared in his head. "Haku!" Zabuza suddenly shouted, causing Haku to clench her eyes shut, her hands covering most of her face. "Don't go, Haku-chan," Naruto said with a look of fear on his face, knowing that deep down, he wouldn't be able to stop her. "I have to do it, I can't let him die," Haku muttered with a sad smile on her face. Naruto felt her cold hands brush up against his cheek. "Maybe it's better this way, I can fulfill my promise to be a better tool, and to make sure that you stay alive," Haku whispered before Naruto felt her whisk past him as quickly as possible. "No, I can't let that happen." Naruto thought wildly as he twisted his body and attempted to run, but he found himself slamming to the ground hard. "Damn it!" Naruto shouted angrily as he slammed his fist against the concrete below him. He couldn't allow her to die. This world needed kind-hearted people like her in it. He was just the village pariah who everyone hated. He had no future. He had nothing. What kind of man would he be if he couldn't keep the woman he loved alive? "I need to get up," Naruto screamed as his fist slammed against the ground again, anger continuing to pour into his veins. He needed to get up as soon as possible, and nothing, not even his own body, was going to make him quit. With a roar filled with raw determination, Naruto felt a fiery burst of chakra fill his veins. The senbon that was trapped in his legs exploded from his body, and the numb feeling he had in his legs was no longer there. Like a bat out of hell, Naruto charged through the mist at such a high speed, his feet were gliding over the ground. The sound of the chirping birds was growing louder to his ears, but it sounded like it was moving as well. "Almost there. I have to stop it." Naruto raged within his head as he pushed his speed to the highest level, until his eyes gazed upon the image of Haku, standing in front of the limp-armed Zabuza, as Kakashi's lightning-covered hand aimed at Haku's chest. Just one more push, Naruto thought as a burst of chakra managed to get in between the arm and Haku herself. Naruto had no time to breathe a sigh of relief, however, because a searing pain shattered his right shoulder blade all the way to his chest. "Oh my god, Naruto." His sensei screamed into his ear in horror at what he had just done, but Naruto didn't care. All he was concerned about was Haku, who seemed to be horrified at him being in front of her at that time. Barely made it, Naruto wheezed out, blood dribbling from his mouth as he gave a weak smile to the nukenin before him. Naruto then felt the arm within his body being forcibly pulled out of his body, forcing his body to fall back to the ground with a wet disgusting smacking sound. No? Naruto-kun. Haku screamed in horror as she fell to Naruto's side, tears pouring out of her eyes at the fact that Naruto had taken the bullet for her. Why? Why did you do this? She demanded angrily, her hands clenching his torn orange jumpsuit. Needed to do it, Naruto wheezed out weakly, his eyes trying to keep focused on the teen before him. Haku's forehead met his bloody jacket as she screamed his name in agony. Naruto was grateful for the loud scream because he was just going to drift off. Kakashi-sensei, sorry, Naruto panted out, his eyes pupils fading in and out as he tried to stay as long as possible. Why did you do it, Naruto? Kakashi asked solemnly, unable to understand why he had done what he did. For the enemy to boot. Chaku-chan, love her, Naruto stated with a weak smile on his face, his skin now becoming pale. She needed to stay alive. She was torn between her love of me and her loyalty to Zabu. Naruto-kun, you selfless fool. Haku shouted angrily and helplessly as she looked at his bloody pale face. My life is meaningless. I failed Zabuza-sama, I failed you, I am a failure in every meaning of the word. Why sacrifice your life for me? A worthless tool. Why, Naruto-kun? You deserved your life more than I ever did. Haku would have continued to rant if not for Naruto placing a hand on top of her head, causing her to stop speaking immediately. What good woo would I be if I let my precious son die? Naruto breathed out with a smile before he leaned his head back and let out a final breath. The last thing his eyes laid upon was the blue sky above. Unknown location. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. What good woo would I be if I let my precious person die? Naruto breathed out with a smile before he leaned his head back and let out a final breath. The last thing his eyes laid upon was the blue sky above. Hearing the water crashing around him as he lay on the wet sand beneath him, Naruto opened his right eye and groaned in pain, forcing his body to cooperate with what he needed by getting to his feet. Rising to his feet, Naruto was surprised to feel that the injuries he sustained from earlier were no longer there, but as he truly looked around, he felt something was wrong with this scene. While the sun itself was glowing a faint fiery orange in the middle of the sky color itself was a midnight blue, but the stars above were also fiery orange. It was like staring at fireflies. He had to admit, despite knowing something was wrong, he enjoyed the sight of the world around him. The lake was crystal blue, and the sand beneath his feet was white and not too hot, and the island itself was very lush and green. But where am I? Naruto asked himself. You are in my domain, Uzumaki Naruto. Hearing the unknown voice, Naruto turned to see a man with medium-length black hair, along with a medium-sized beard, but the thing Naruto noticed the most was the yellow and black garb that the man wore. Come, join me in having some tea, the man told him, motioning the genin over with a motion of his head. Naruto walked over to the sitting man and sat down across from him and said thanks. I didn't want to stand there too long. The man chuckled and poured Naruto some tea, which Naruto accepted and sipped. It tastes good, Naruto said with an approving smile on his face. It should. It was my mother's recipe, the man responded with a small chuckle. But I have wasted enough time. You are in the realm between the living and the dead. Ah, I see, that's not easy to hear, Naruto replied stoically. He really didn't know how to respond to knowing he was close to both life and death. So, what's keeping me alive? Naruto asked softly. The demonic entity within you is working hard to save you. I must give it credit. It does not want to die, the man responded with a small shake of his head and a chuckle. Well, at least it's good for something at least, but that also answers my question. I was going to ask if you were the Kyuubi. The man laughed at this and shook his head. I am a different being altogether. I was not aware that I would find myself in this position, after a large percentage of my soul was recycled into yours. Explain, Naruto said with a stare. Yes, I shall, the man said as he stood up and looked at the sky. My name is Hisashi Hanzo, and during my time alive and undead, I went by another name. My name was Scorpion and I, Uzumaki Naruto, am the remains of your old soul. Unknown location. Pav. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto stood flabbergasted at the news he just received. I'm sorry. Did you say you were part of my soul? Naruto exclaimed. The man nodded, clearly amused despite the situation they were in. Can I get some sort of explanation, please? Naruto requested with a stare. Because today has been a lot and this is just, oh boy. I understand what you mean all too well, the man said as he stood up and looked at the sky. My name is Hisashi Hanzo, and during my time alive and undead, I went by another name. My name was Scorpion and I, Uzumaki Naruto, am the remains of your old soul. Naruto had heard a lot of things in his life, but this was a new one. This man before him stated that he was his old soul, but that shouldn't be possible. How can that be possible? Naruto asked with a distrustful gaze at the man before him. I was always told that every man has a soul unique to him. Hanzo nodded in agreement, then said, and that is true, Naruto, but what you don't know is that there is a balance. For every life that ends, another begins, and whenever a new life is born, a new soul is created along with it. Well, the life that ends has two destinations, the heavens or to the Netherrealm or hell as you know it. Hanzo crossed his arms and began to explain. Normally, these two paths do not overlap, because as you said, a soul is unique to the new life, but there is a small window that appears between the death of a being, and the birth of a new being, and if it happens between that nanosecond window, the soul of the recently deceased becomes reconstructed into a blank slate. At least, that was what should have happened. Naruto cocked an eyebrow, clearly wanting the man before him to continue. When I passed on, my soul was reconstructed into your own, but somehow, I remained dormant deep within the recesses of the soul, until now, Hanzo told the youth, a troubled look on his face. And, well, that is something, but you look troubled about it, Naruto noted. Shouldn't you be happy that you are back? I know I would be. I am troubled because this spells death for us both, and not just physically, Hanzo replied sharply, his eyes narrowing down at the blonde in front of him. This meeting was never to happen. I'm sure I was to remain dormant until your passing where things would have progressed naturally, but because I returned, it's causing our soul to fracture. That's bad, but how bad? Naruto asked with a fearful tone in his voice. When a soul fractures for any reason, it only has 10 minutes to heal that fracture before it becomes unstable, until it shatters like glass. When that happens, the very existence of that being is wiped from the memory of every living person that being has ever met, but what happens to the shattered soul remains a mystery, Hanzo replied with a stoic tone. Naruto's eyes widened in horror at the words that were just spoken from his past life. Not only was this causing his body to die quicker, but if that did happen, they would be erased completely. That can't be. You said that a soul goes to heaven or hell. Not erased. Naruto shouted, panic written across his face. Yes, I did. A soul. Meaning one. When I was awoken, our soul split in half to accommodate my consciousness, and a body cannot operate with a fractured soul, Hanzo replied instantly. But what about the Kyuubi? It's a living, breathing demon inside of me. It has a soul. Can't it heal us enough for this to not happen? Naruto exclaimed. The Kyuubi, although she has limitless amounts of chakra that can perform many miracles, her chakra cannot heal a fractured soul, nor can her soul fill in the fracture, Hanzo answered as his eyes gazed at the sky above. It seems the shattering is starting, Hanzo cryptically noted. Naruto followed Hanzo's gaze to the sky, and the first thing he noticed was that the orange sun that was previously in the sky had become pitch black, and within it was white spider web cracks within it. And those cracks were spreading. So there's nothing we can do then? Naruto asked, overwhelming sadness filling his heart as he watched the cracks slowly making their way from the sun and onto the sky around it. We're stuck watching ourselves being sent to oblivion. Hanzo remained silent for a few moments before he said, not quite, there's one thing we can do that can fix this. Naruto's hopeful eyes latched onto the man, his voice almost quivering as he asked, how? How can we stop this? Hanzo remained silent for what seemed like several lifetimes before he turned his head to look at the blonde. The only way we can fix this is to become one once more. That's it. That sounds very simple. Do I have to fight you or something? Naruto asked, his voice now stronger than it was before. Hanzo shook his head slowly, dashing Naruto's hopes. What I mean by to become one once more, it doesn't mean us fighting for control. In fact, fighting would only hasten the fracture, hence why I did not fight you immediately upon awakening. If that wasn't the case, you would be dead right now, Hanzo said with a wry smirk on his face before he became serious once more. Now that my consciousness has returned, it brought forth everything I was. My abilities, my skills, my personality, and my memories, Hanzo explained before he looked away from the blonde. I introduced myself to you as the remains of your old soul, but that is no longer true. I am now half of this new soul and you have become the same. If we combine, we will no longer be Hisashi Hanzo and Uzumaki Naruto. We would become a new being altogether, Hanzo finished, his head lowered to the ground. Naruto merely shrugged and stated with an airy tone, that shouldn't be too bad then. I mean, you seem like a somewhat normal guy. How bad could your past really be? The moment those words left Naruto's mouth, Naruto felt something in the air change. It was as if the heat was turned up in the entire area. You don't know the words that you speak, Hanzo gravely whispered, his back turned to Naruto, who was confused by the older man's words. The heat around the area spiked up tremendously after Naruto spoke and for a moment, Naruto was confused. Where was this heat coming from? Just then, small amounts of fire particles began to rise into the air around Naruto and Hanzo, making the former look in alarm. Naruto didn't know what was going on, but from the way it looked, it was like they were rising from hell itself. Naruto turned to Hanzo, who was eerily quiet this entire time, and was about to open his mouth, when a large burst of flame erupted from out of Hanzo's body, causing Naruto to fly back onto the ground. What the hell is going on? Naruto shouted as the echoed roar of Hanzo was heard from the large tower of fire that had warped around the man. Without warning, the fire quickly dispersed from around the man, but when the figure turned around, Naruto received a shock. The figure was wearing 2 black and gold greaves which had a gold scorpion design, along with baggy black pants, that held a large silver belt with a skull in the middle of it. Coming from beneath the belt was a gold-colored sash with a gold-colored metal trim that hung down to the figure's thighs. The figure's chest had 2 thick white gold armored straps that were across his bare chest and went down behind the belt, which was presumably attached to the sash, but on both straps of armor were 2 lines of 3 golden spikes, with a single spike underneath the 2 lines. Also on the figure's chest were large chains that were attached to the shackles around the neck of the figure and the sides of the belt. The figure also had his right arm, from his knuckles to bicep, covered in thin chains, while the left arm bore a black metal gauntlet that bore a gold scorpion on it, but when Naruto finally gazed upon the head, his stomach dropped. Instead of the stern, masculine bearded Japanese face of Hanzo was the head of a complete skull, and to make matters worse, the skull was on fire. "What the hell are you?" Naruto screamed, terrified of the image before him. The figure began to walk towards him, the hellish fire around him licking and scorching the green grass beneath his feet as he screeched, "I am revenge taken form. I am the result of destroying and rebuilding one's soul from the flames of the Netherrealm itself. I am the ultimate force in death and destruction. I am Scorpion, the undead wraith of Hisashi Hanzo." Scorpion grabbed the terrified Naruto by his jacket, and got his face close to Naruto's own and shouted, "You think, in your tiny human mind, that what I've gone through was just rough? You do not know the words that you speak. I have battled mortals, demons, demigods, and even gods themselves. I have died, been undead, and returned to life. I have seen things that will make your soul weep for eons. I know the pain that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemies, and you dare try to lessen the impact of my misery." Naruto was so scared and speechless that he couldn't even process the words coming from the undead specter's mouth. All he could do was stare into the eyeless, flaming sockets of the skull before him. "You're speechless before the image you see before you. Imagine being forced into this form. Imagine all that you know being stripped away from you through waves of agony, rage, and despair by means of bathing in the fires of hell. Imagine drowning underneath your own revenge as the screams of your wife and son, as they are being murdered inside of your head repeatedly, while you are unable to save them." "I can't." Naruto screamed out, tears streaming from his face from both fears of the warrior before him, as well as the pain coming from the echoing voice attached to said warrior. The skull laughed darkly and replied, "You will," and with those words, the world around Naruto was enveloped by the hellish storm of flames, but instead of being burned, Naruto found himself falling through the memories of Hanzo's Scorpion. Naruto could see it all. Naruto was forced to watch all of the happiness Hanzo had from the moment he was a small child to his time as a grown man, and the leader of his clan, the Shirai Ryu, with his beautiful wife Kana, and his infant son by his side. It was then Naruto watched as a bunch of warriors in blue stormed through the clan and kill everyone there. He watched Hanzo fight valiantly, but he was killed by the Lin Kuei assassin Sub-Zero, his head and spine ripped from his body. The last image Hanzo saw was the frozen corpses of his wife and child. Naruto then watched as Hanzo was tortured and tormented for ages, until the necromancer Quan Kai twisted and shaped the broken soul of Hisashi Hanzo in the flames of the Netherrealm, to give birth to Scorpion, all while promising the spirit, by helping him gain his honor and avenge his fallen clan and family. With wide eyes, Naruto watched as the Thunder God Raiden urged Scorpion to defeat, but not kill Sub-Zero, promising him that he would make a request to the Elder Gods to bring the Shirai Ryu and the Hellspawn's family back to life, but only if Sub-Zero remained alive. Scorpion contemplated Raiden's offer of bringing his clan back to the world of the living, and eventually looked towards Raiden, and silently nodded his consent. Scorpion was finally confronted by his rival, Sub-Zero, who showed great disrespect to Scorpion, and his clan's memory, which enraged Scorpion, who immediately took both of them to the Netherrealm, where they engaged in combat. In the end, Naruto saw that Scorpion emerged victorious and decided to spare Sub-Zero's life, only to have Quan Kai appear, ordering Scorpion to kill Sub-Zero. Remembering his bargain with Raiden, Scorpion refused, stating that Sub-Zero had been defeated. But the necromancer decided that it was now the time to replay what happened to Scorpion, and that proved to be effective, because in gruesome detail, Naruto watched as Scorpion gained his vengeance on Sub-Zero, even as the cryomancer screamed his innocence. And because of this, the deal between him and the Thunder God was done. Scorpion was hardly satisfied and chose to continue fighting for Quan Kai. Naruto spiraled through the years of horror that Scorpion had caused in the name of the necromancer who had molded him, and all that Naruto felt, while he watched Hanzo's life up until his final death, was nothing short but violence, loneliness, self-loathing, and it was hitting a huge target in Naruto's heart. Despite the bright spots in Hanzo's life, such as Takahashi Kenshi talking him out of suicide and training his son, Takahashi Takeda, Hanzo always remained alone until his dying day, and that was a fate that Naruto wouldn't wish on anyone. Suddenly, the flames around him faded away, to reveal Hanzo in front of him instead of Scorpion, but the man seemed to have a look of concern on his face. "I apologize." I lost my cool, Hanzo said calmly, but the worry in his eyes was evident. No, don't be, Naruto softly said, trying to shake the ache in his heart. It's funny, I was forced to watch everything about your past and yet, despite the gore, the horrible images of hell and other things, there was one thing consistent. Naruto then lowered his head and whispered, you were always lonely, when you weren't being a dick with Quan Kai and NarutoxHarem as Scorpion or training Takeda or having tea with Kenshi as Hanzo. You always sat there, all alone, mourning your wife and your son, and loss of both iterations of the Shirai Ryu. You died that way. Naruto's voice seemed to waver in sadness as he added, the minute you died, I was born and I was alone. Both my parents died during Kyuubi's attack before it was sealed inside of me. I don't have any family or clan. I really don't have friends that would stick with me through thick and thin, up until recently. All I had were dreams of having a family with me. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, I'm sorry that I insulted you by making light of what you've gone through, and that you aren't alone. But as soon as Naruto said those words, he truly began to think that maybe he didn't want to go through with this after all. Would it honestly be so bad for everyone to forget about him? No one really cared if he was around in his village, and no one really wanted to be his friend. He was truly alone in this world, and seeing Hanzo's memories only amplified that loneliness. If he were to die and his soul shattered, his village would forget all about him, and just think that the Kyuubi had died instead of being sealed away inside of him. And not to mention, instead of his birthday being a day of mourning and a day of chasing him down and trying to hurt him, Konoha would throw parades to celebrate. And who knows what would happen to the Kyuubi if he died. He didn't know if the Kyuubi would die as well or just be sent back to hell, but she from what Hanzo said about her, would still be gone from this realm. It just felt as if everything good would happen if Naruto had just died. Seemingly unaware of Naruto's bitter thoughts, Hanzo lowered Naruto to the ground and softly chuckled. Thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. I just wish that taking you down my memories didn't cause the degradation of our soul to speed up 7 minutes, Hanzo said as he motioned to the sky above them. The entire sky was now right, and small pieces of the sky were falling down to the ground sporadically. How? Naruto harshly yelled. That is my fault. Letting Scorpion take control burns my soul's energy. It always has. Because of our situation, it burned our time as well. We only have 3 minutes left, Hanzo replied through his aggravated sigh. Okay, so tell me something, you said that we will merge completely, right? Will it hurt? Naruto asked as he faced the clan head of the Shirai Ryu. I won't lie to you, it will hurt. Despite being human during the end of that war against Shinnok, the hellfire of the NarutoxHarem still coursed through my veins. When we combine, it will rebuild you from the ground up, but it will feel like your very soul is burning in a lake of lava, Hanzo answered. Well, that's great, Naruto sarcastically muttered. Well, he was pretty shaken by what he had seen. Naruto couldn't allow himself to die here. There was too much he had to do. So much he had to say. Not just to his team, but to Haku. The reason Naruto was going through all of this in the first place. Naruto knew that from their night together and from her struggle during their battle to obey her master, by not wanting to hurt him, and he remembered how heartbroken she had looked when he took his sensei's attack. She looked as if her entire world ended when he faded away. He had a chance to go back and make her happy. And that was more than enough for him. With a steel resolve, Naruto gave a small smirk and told Hanzo, I don't think that will be any problem, Hanzo. I actually expected that could happen considering us merging everything. I do have to say, being reborn by the flames of hell, talk about something I never expected to see in my lifetime. Well, any other side effect that could occur? I don't know, Hanzo answered. You don't know? Naruto asked, stunned by this submission from Hanzo. Hanzo sighed at this and said, despite learning all of this from Ermac after Kenshi converted him to her side and then Raiden moments before it all ended, I never got into the specifics. I never thought this could happen at all, but I do know this. When we merge, every last detail about us will come together. Now I do not know if my personality will overpower yours or vice versa. All I know is that if we don't do this now, we will never get another shot. Hanzo then held out his right hand and said, it's time. I don't think shaking hands will solve anything, Naruto said with a blank expression. At that moment, Naruto felt the return of the intense heat returned along with the fire particles beginning to float up from around them, making Naruto a little wary, considering the last time this happened, he was looking at a flaming skull. I'm not holding out my hand for a handshake, Hanzo said with a serious look on his face. Naruto then saw a lick of fire shoot around Hanzo before an aura of fire formed around him. I'm preparing myself for the merging of our fractured soul. I don't know what will happen from here on out, but we will see this through, unless you'd rather back out now, Hanzo explained. Truth be told, I don't like the idea of coming out of this as someone new, but it beats being erased from all existence and other unknown factors. Whatever happens, I get to see Haku-chan again, I get to keep my promise to her and the people of Wave, and that is all that truly matters. Naruto shouted and clasped his hand with Hanzo's outreached hand. The moment their hands connected, the fire roared to life around the two of them, before making a full circle around them. But before the fire fully engulfed the two of them, the last thought running through Naruto's pure mind was, "Don't worry Haku-chan, I'm coming back to you, I promise." Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.